viewers, welcome back to AZ2 Ozarks. Today I want to share with you my recipe for making a very simple yeasted pumpkin spice bread. 'Tis the season for all things pumpkin spice, and you may as well throw a loaf of delicious bread in there with it. And this recipe is super easy to double if you would like to make 2 loaves at a time. Some of the standout ingredients we'll be using today will be, of course, pumpkin puree. So you can use canned pumpkins, certainly, but I will be using pumpkin puree that I made from our own Musky de Provence pumpkins. And I will link up the video for where we are harvesting and processing those pumpkins. Additionally, we will be using pumpkin pie spice. Of course, that must be included when you're making pumpkin spice bread. And I do order my ingredients through Azure Standard. I'll put a link in the description below. I am an affiliate with them, so it does help me out a little bit if you use the link. We will also be using yeast, and this yeast, you may wonder why I don't proof it. Well, yeast has become so very reliable that it doesn't need to be proofed. So we are going to be making this really easy by putting all of our ingredients into one bowl and just mixing right away. So let's go ahead and get started. 3 cups flour. 1/2 tablespoon yeast, 1/2 tablespoon pumpkin pie spice, 1/4 cup sugar, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup pumpkin puree, and 3/4 cup warm water. Using the dough hook attachment on your KitchenAid mixer, mix it until you have formed a nice dough, and then we will allow it to rest. Now that our dough has come together into a ball, we will allow it to rest for approximately 10 minutes before we turn the machine back on again for kneading it the second time. Our dough has rested for approximately 10 minutes, and now we will begin kneading again in the machine using the second speed setting, and do this for about 7 to 10 minutes. We have a nice smooth dough that has formed, and now we will just remove the dough hook from the dough and cover it with plastic wrap, and then allow it to double in size. So it's going to rise, and that could take between a half hour and an hour depending on the temperature in your kitchen, so just keep an eye on it. The dough has doubled in size, and so it is done with its first rising, and now we will shape it for its final rising. I like to use a scraper to remove the dough gently from the bowl. This will also help deflate the dough a little bit. And then we will be shaping it into a loaf shape. I will be using a greased loaf pan. This is a stoneware pan. These are my favorite for consistent baking. I find that you don't get a burnt bottom crust when you use these, so I really like to. And in order to shape this into a loaf, I start by flattening it into kind of an oval shape, and then I like to flip it over. If you find it is too sticky, you can add just a bit of flour, but you really don't want to add much. So now that nice smooth side we pressed out is on the bottom, which will be on the top of the loaf. And I start with taking the bottom edge, and I pull it towards myself, stretching it and folding it onto itself and pressing in. So pulling to stretch and rolling it over, and you just do this all the way down. If it gets too narrow at the end, you can just stretch it out a little bit. And then when we get to the very end, I press the seam together. This seam will be the bottom of the loaf in the pan. So place it seam side down. And there you have it. We will add a little bit of grease to the top so the plastic will not stick. Again, I am using coconut oil, that's my preference, but you may use butter or margarine or a spray. I wouldn't use a spray on the top, but you can use that in the pan. Then you cover with your plastic wrap again. And now you will allow it to rise again until it has filled this pan nicely. And at this time, it may be a good point to start preheating your oven to 350 degrees. Our bread is looking nicely domed over and has filled out the pan. Now we will bake it at 350 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes until it sounds hollow underneath and is slightly golden on top. The bread is a nice golden brown after 35 minutes, so I will remove it from the oven and place it on a cooling rack to cool. Now that it has cooled off a bit, we better slice into it. I love how soft and delicate this pumpkin spice loaf is. It's slightly sweet as well as rich with the pumpkin flavors. It's very tender and it's just a wonderful bread that accompanies perfectly with butter or also even making French toast. Now that we've sliced into our loaf, we have to have a taste test, of course. So here's our slice of bread, and I have my expert taste tester on hand. So why don't you grab that and tell us what you think.
Gotta get another bite.
You gotta get another bite? Okay.
Tastes like a pumpkin.
Tastes like a pumpkin? Do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more recipes in the future.